Well, you remember in the last episode, I touched my scraper on the mandrel. I was hoping that nobody would notice, but then I realized probably everybody was going to notice. So I told you about it. Now, for those of you who missed that, here it is again. And I touched the mandrel with the scraper right now. And I think that's the very first time I've done that. In fact, I'm sure it's the very first time. I'd remember if I'd done it before. Anyway, it happened just right about on the approximately, I would say, 10 o'clock position here. So let's take a close look and just see how badly we dulled it. I've already looked. It's not as bad as you'd think. Okay, I can't get the entire width of the scraper in all at once. But it happened right there. And I'll be able to show you a little clearer in a minute when I take the file out of the camera and get it in the video here. See if I can make it a little sharper. That's about as sharp as I can get it. Let's turn the recording on here. Everything's upside down. Okay, I'm recording now. And I wonder if I can zoom in a little closer on that spot. I'll get the damaged area right in the center. Right now I'm on about 7 power. I'm going to zoom it right in as far as I can go here, more or less. Focus a little bit. Oh yeah, you can start seeing it pretty good right now. Okay, zoom in a little more. Okay, that's as far as this microscope will zoom in. I know I've mentioned this before, but this microscope is the best kind of microscope you can get for a workshop. It only goes to about 60-something power, but it's just wonderful for doing stuff like this. Now you can see there, I've damaged it a little bit. Maybe I'll turn up the brightness here. Maybe it can be even sharper. That's about it. That's as sharp as I can get it. Now I am a little bit concerned because this camera's running at 60 frames a second. That one's only running at 30, so I'm hoping I can mesh them up in my production here. Anyway, I've wasted enough time here over the scraper. As you can see, it's only taken out just a little bit. It hasn't gouged in like this. So I won't have to take the scraper down very much to get the edge on the entire radius there. Yeah, thought you might be interested. You know, this wouldn't be so bad, except while I was turning there before, I was actually thinking I should stop, put in a spacer on the left side, give myself a little more room, and I thought, oh, I'll be careful. Yep, careful, all right. Anyway, to save myself a minute, putting in a spacer and readjusting, like I told one of the viewers that commented, now I gotta spend about 30 minutes trying to get everything back to the way it was. And what really irks me is I had my scraper razor sharp. Now you can probably see here that I could go down a little bit further, closer to the bushings. But what I'm planning on doing is I'm just going to round those over after. I want to keep this as thick as I can. I want it to be nice and bold. Don't want to lose any of this really nice crabapple wood. I think we're ready to put on the polish. Okay, now once again I'm using this cut and shine or cut and polish or cut and something. In other words, it's got the grit in it. And I'm putting a fair amount of pressure on the bottom of the blank here with my finger to try and get a little bit of cutting action going. You can see there on the paper towel it got a little bit dark. Well, that's because I'm cutting the bushing. I don't want to get that into the blank. Oh, maybe I've got enough. Sort of wipe it out here. Now this is the way I do it. There might be a better way, but this is the way I do it. I'll speed it up and sort of buff it a little bit. Okay, that's one coat. See how that looks. I'm going to do that 3 or 4 more times. I think that's going to be alright. Okay, for the final coat I'm going to use a non-cutting polish. Yeah, that's okay. I don't see any little rings or anything. I've done a lot worse, that's for sure. Okay, so that's the clip end. Now we just have to do the nib end. And I guess you know what I'm going to put right there, right? A spacer. I think I'm just going to leave these bushings on. That way there's no danger of getting things mixed up, although I probably wouldn't. And this time I'm going to get the small bushing in the end that has the most bark showing, and the larger one will go in the other end. And I think it's going to be okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now for a spacer, I'll just use one of the bushings from the Napoleon kit. Yeah, be a lot less chance of touching the mantle with my scraper now. Now this time I'm going to tighten it up a little tighter so I don't have it slipping. Well, my tailstock is sliding back on the bed here. Guess I got to tighten this a little bit more. That's getting pretty tight. I suppose it could catch, but we'll see what happens. Well, I'm thinking that maybe I should swallow my pride and use the roughing gouge here to at least start getting rid of those corners, and then transfer to the scraper. I think I'm going to do the rest with the sandpaper now. Well, I think this one's ready for the wax as well. Just double check and make sure I don't have any little micro lines going around the radius of this thing. And I don't see anything, so. I'm hoping this is going to match up with the little, I guess you call it character flaw of the other one. And I think it will. Well, there's 3 coats of the cut and shine polish and 2 coats of the regular. It looks not too bad. Now right here it turned out a little bit lighter than I thought it was gonna. I hope I can get this to match up now with the other blank. Well, it's gonna be different. Well, I am ready to press here, but before I do, I want to round over these sharp edges here. They're not too bad, but if I round them over, they're going to mate up a lot better with the pen parts. Otherwise there will be a very noticeable difference from this diameter to, say, that diameter. Whereas if it's rounded over, it sort of blends in. At least that's my findings. Okay, this is 600 grit sandpaper. It doesn't need to be very coarse to do this. Just want to slightly round this over, and I want it rounded over, not beveled. So as I'm doing this, I'll be going like this. Maybe just a little more. Give that a try. Now on a kit like this, it's very easy to make a mistake and maybe try and press the nib end in here, but it doesn't go that way. The nib end goes in here. The clip end goes in here. So you got to make sure everything is lined up beforehand. At least that's the way I do it. And it makes it a lot easier. So this is going to go in here. That works real well. Now this little decorative ring is beveled a little bit more one way than the other. So I want to make sure I get it on the right way. At least I think it's beveled. Okay, I'm taking a closer look. It's not beveled. Wouldn't matter which way it goes on. Anyway, here we go. Now this last pressing has to be done with great care. And the reason for that is because this shoulder that you see right here gets pressed in and stops when it gets flush with this. In other words, this whole piece gets pressed in here, and I have to stop as soon as this shoulder is flush here, because the cap that holds the clip on, it screws on. So I have to have the threads there. If I shove the threads in the hole, this isn't going to screw on. And that's what holds this clip on. Okay, very carefully here. Don't want to go too far. Little more, little more. There. I think that's perfect. We are almost done here. Now this clip is not put on by any kind of pressing, and it can be adjusted later. Now this sometimes does not go on easy, but we'll get it. There we go. Okay, so I definitely do not want the clip to cover this character flaw, and I'm thinking it can either be at right angles to it or completely off to the other side. And I'll try it, just see how it looks when it's at the complete opposite side to this. I can always change it later. Just loosen this cap here, and then I can swing it around anywhere I want it. Now, the idea is I want these character flaws to line up when it's in the neutral position, which it is right now. You notice that the ballpoint is completely retracted into the nib. So if I press it on like this, I think it's going to look okay. So here we go. Well, there we go. It's done. I can't believe it. It's finally done. I think it looks okay. Let's take a closer look. Now you'll remember at the beginning of this series I mentioned how that it can be turned either way to get the ballpoint to eject. But let's test it out. Will it right? Yeah, looks best that way.